Hello, my fellow gamers. Gamer Dude back once again with another informative video. But before we begin, y'all know the routine. If you are new to the channel, please make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe because it would just be your good deed of the day. Same applies if you are a returning viewer. Now, I would ask you to settle down with some drinks and snacks because this is going to be a rather long one, as you can probably tell from the title. So, getting right into it. From huge AAA titles like God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West to smaller indie games like Stray, there's no shortage of candidates for this year's award ceremony. I can't, unfortunately, feature every game released this year, as we'll literally be here all day. Plus, I don't know if I'm allowed to actually use certain footage anymore because devs just aren't returning my emails. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, honestly, I actually don't have the editing equipment to do it anyway. But moving on, in this video, we're going to be looking into all my predictions to win the gaming ceremony and which ones could be left out to dry. Now, with the awards just mere days away, set to take place in Los Angeles, the City of Angels, the awards will honor the best development studios have had to offer this year, honoring everything from the biggest blockbusters to the smallest independent debuts. Now let's jump into the video with my predictions. I am going to keep it relatively short to evade a long-winded video, so I've only decided to include 7 games that I believe are assuring. So, coming in 7th place, I'm going to go with Gotham Knights. This game was the first outing in the DC Batman universe for WB Montreal since Batman Arkham Origins. And it's safe to say it was rather poorly received, and most fans absolutely hated it due to its next-gen exclusivity and it being locked at 30 frames per second. So you're probably asking me why I've added it to this list, or even considered it to be a candidate. So, although the game was somewhat repetitive and didn't offer much in terms of narrative, exploration, as most of the other DC games we've become accustomed to, remember, Gotham Knights is still a AAA game from a big-time development team, and it is its own thing. A major bold take on a universe without Batman, that is, was risky in of itself. But you have to remember, this is totally separate from Rocksteady's Batman universe. Once people can accept that, is the moment I think people can stop expecting it to be something it's not and actually take the time to enjoy it, which is why I included it on this list and hope it receives an award. Up next, I'm going with Horizon Forbidden West. I say this because it is very difficult to pull off a successful sequel, but Guerrilla Games did exactly that. They did it brilliantly. I mean, you will struggle to find a more immersive game with a bigger, more expansive world map, and it offers massive replay value, thus having more value for money. Not to mention, it's also highly addictive. And did I mention it's absolutely gorgeous? Plus, like, seriously? Robot dinosaurs are the zombies of this universe. You know, they are zombies. You know, they're out to kill everything, and then they just move on to the next victim. Is that not zombies? Tell me that's not zombies. So moving on to the next entry, I am going with Stray. Now, I actually never played Stray, but I did see gameplay of it, and I must say it's quite the debut game from French indie studio Blue 12. This surprisingly emotional dystopian adventure painted kind of like a nice picturesque post-apocalyptic world with all human life seemingly extinguished. It was a bleak yet hopeful picture of the fragility of life. It wasn't your typical content based on nuanced commentary or on capitalism and its impact on the planet, you know? Oh, and you also play as a very cute cat, so there's also that. You know, there's even a meow button. And the robots can pet the cat, so what's not to love? That is why I included it in this list. Coming in at number 5, I am going to go with Elden Ring, another title I haven't actually played. However, I have seen some gameplay, and I can see why fans of this type of gameplay would be into it. It seemed to have bits of everything in it. I mean, it was in collaboration with George R.R. Martin, so it was gonna be good. You know, but the elements that I picked up from it, you know, I saw bits of Skyrim, bits of God of War, bits of Conan Exiles, bits of Oblivion, and just bits of it being its own thing entirely. Now, I haven't seen much gameplay, so I'm not going to hash it out or dive too deep into this one. But it seems to be a likely candidate given as of November this year, the game has sold 17.5 million copies worldwide. That is a phenomenal achievement. Like, most games don't even see that within the first year, so that is phenomenal. Next up is A Plague Tale Requiem. Now, having played the first game once it was free on PS Plus, I have found myself debating whether to actually get the second game. I found myself struggling to enjoy the first game as it seemed like something that should have doubled as a PS3 indie game. However, all of this was completely oversighted by its strange yet magnificent story and excellent character development with its lead protagonist and her younger brother. You know, it's everything you expect from a story-based game. However, having not played Requiem, I'm not going to hash this one out too much either. I'm not going to pass any judgment on it. But I will say the sequel looks just as trippy and bonkers with all the traits from the first game, which is why I have included it in this list and believe it is a candidate for the ceremony. Now, this entry may cause some heads to turn, but I'm going to include it anyway. And it's Sonic Frontiers. Now, before you absolutely obliterate my comment section, hear me out. Sonic Frontiers, it's bold, as it kind of moved away from the traditional Sonic 3D side-scrolling style formula that fans were used to for a more common open world sort of universe. Now, most people rejected it for replacing an iconic formula with something new. But here's my take on it. After the recent success of the live-action Sonic movies and movies that have progressed since then, you know, you've got Chip and Dale and the Lego movies and whatnot, you've got to think of it as its own thing. Sorry, I'm reading a script here, guys. This is the first time I've done a script in a while, and I just lost my place. I do apologize. So I do apologize once again. But one has to think that the devs took this into account and consideration when making this game. You know, they must have thought, okay, let's give people the chance to really be Sonic. Make players feel like they can really open him up. You know, really test out that speed. It's one of those situations where you have to connect this version of the character to the movie universe character instead of the universe we've become accustomed to. Even though it's different, and I personally haven't touched a Sonic game in years, I have had my eye on this since its first reveal trailer, and I think it'll make a great addition to this year's awards ceremony. Finally, coming in at number 1, yes, you guessed it, it is God of War Ragnarok. I mean, what can I say about this game? Oh my god. As I previously mentioned with Horizon Forbidden West, it's very difficult to make a successful sequel and have it exceed the first game. But Santa Monica Studios did not disappoint. Although Ragnarok does have some areas it could use some tweaking and improvements, and yet again, it left us hanging on a massive climax, and with the devs saying this is the final game that they're making as well. But I'm sure many of you would agree that this is a 10 out of 10 game, and it delivered even more so than the first game. From its character development, massive open worlds, to its flawless story. But it's definitely safe to say Santa Monica may not be making future versions of the game due to their recent statement that this will be the last one. But a sequel is definitely assured, given we can now move into new territory as Loki Atreus. And also, the fact that given Kratos didn't actually die in Ragnarok, there's always a possibility for another God of War game from another studio, or if Santa Monica decide to do another one from them themselves. But, I've been thinking, obviously, if they make a Loki game, they can't call it Loki, or Disney would have an absolute field day with copyrights and lawsuits. But as far as I know, nobody owns the rights to the title God of Mischief. Oh, wait, I just said that. No. If that's what the next game is called, I want royalties. I patent it. I came up with it. It's mine. Haha. Get your own. Pay me. Pay me now. Swear down. If you steal that, I will hunt you down. So next up, we have the category of Best Art. Now, I'm diving a little bit out of my comfort zone with this because I love story-driven games. I don't really pay much attention to the graphics. Yeah, the graphics are a bonus, but for me, it's all about story and narrative and character development. If it's got good graphics, like I say, it's a bonus, but I'm not really fazed by graphics these days. But yeah, anyway, once again, for the category of Best Art, coming up in first place, we have God of War Ragnarok. Having played through the first game and the sequel recently, it's safe to say Ragnarok will be featured in this category, given the 2018 game actually won this award for this particular category. And in terms of Ragnarok, I actually happened to be playing one day when my mum came over, and she genuinely couldn't tell the difference between the gameplay and the cinematics. She actually asked me what film I was watching. And she's not oblivious to games. Her boyfriend, her partner of 20 years now, I think, plays video games. So it's not like she's oblivious to video games. But when she came in and saw me playing Ragnarok, she actually asked me what film I was watching. I looked at her and went, what? It was like that jaw-dropping moment of, can this actually pass for a film? Like, wow, okay, cool. That's why it definitely deserves either the Game of the Year or one of the separate categories. Next up is, of course, Elden Ring. The team behind this game have always boasted extraordinary art direction, and each of their games has brought its own dark fantasy tendencies to bigger audiences. Now, Elden Ring was made in collab, as I said earlier, with Game of Thrones creator George R.R. Martin. And watching the trailers and gameplay, I can definitely see it with this game's design. So winning Best Art or not, This is definitely up there with other major AAA games and definitely deserves a nomination at least. Now, here's a couple of extra categories. Now, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time because this video is now like 15 minutes long. So I'm just going to list a couple which I think are assuring to win these extra categories. Yes, you can hear paper. It's. I have a script. I wrote a script. I actually did labor. I wrote. So for best audio, here are my nominations: Elden Ring, of course, God of War Ragnarok, Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Forbidden West. Now, I included Gran Turismo 7 as kind of a little bonus for the end of this video because although Gran Turismo 7 wasn't exactly what Polyphonic Digital promised, it did have an awesome audio track. It had an awesome soundtrack. And you felt that when you were playing the game. You could actually enjoy it. I mean, when you first open up the game, there's this music rally, and it's hilarious, but it's actually really cool because you've got to beat the course in the time of the song. And one of the songs is like 2 minutes long, and the lap that you've got to do for the race, I think the fastest lap you can get is something like 3 minutes. So you've got to beat that in 2 minutes. It just gives you a real challenge, and it is really cool. And finally, for best audio, Horizon Forbidden West. Oh, the backing tracks for the Horizon series are astonishingly beautiful. You can be standing over this cliff looking out over the ocean, and you just hear this random track appear in the background, and you're like, oh, I could listen to this all day. I could just stand here, like having this track in the background and fall asleep to it. It's like ambient music. I'm not saying fall asleep to it in a boring way. I'm saying fall asleep to it in a good way. It's like one of those things that you can fall asleep to and feel good about it. It's not one of those things where you're falling asleep to it and thinking, oh, I'm really bored. Not that at all. Now, moving on to Best Actor and Performance, we have Ashley Birch, who played Aloy in Horizon Forbidden West and Horizon Zero Dawn. She is a magnificent character, a brilliant voice actor, and you can really see the emotion in her character when she portrays it. She is a fantastic video game actress, and if they were ever to do like a live action Horizon like TV series or movie, they would have to cast her, because they've done a live action Last of Us TV series that we can expect in January next year, but I think they chose the wrong cast. I really do think they chose the wrong cast. I think they should have brought in Troy Baker as Joel because, Troy Baker is Joel. So I just think they should have done that. I think it's a big misstep on their part. But what I'm saying is if they're doing film or TV show, Ashley Birch has to do it. Number 2, we have Charlotte McBurney, who plays the lead protagonist in A Plague Tale Requiem, as you can see the trailer in the background right now. In the first game, I quite liked her as a character. She had great dialogue. She had great influence over the game. And her character was really quite immersive. You really got to know this character. You really got to feel like it was a character that you could relate to, even though she was living in a kind of plague-ish style France. But glossing over that, I think you can see what I'm saying. She played it very well. She had to pretend that she was living in a time of the plague. She had to deliver that emotion. She had to deliver the fact that there were rats everywhere. She had to, feel it in the mocap studio. She had to pretend that they were all around her, and she did it beautifully. She did it so well. Next up, of course, is the wonderful Christopher Judge as Kratos in God of War Ragnarok and God of War 2018. Now, I'm not going to lie, when the reboot for God of War was announced, I was a little bit sad and disappointed that they replaced the original voice actor for Kratos. But having played it, I can't think of anyone else to do the voice now. It's like, oh my God, Christopher Judge, you're awesome. I grew up watching Christopher Judge because I was a huge Stargate SG-1 fan as a kid. So I knew Christopher Judge as Teal'c from Stargate SG-1. And if you've watched it, you know who I'm talking about. He had the big golden S on his head. So next on the list, it's another God of War protagonist, and it's Sonny Suljic, who plays Loki/Atreus in the God of War series. Now, when he first appeared in the God of War 2018 reboot, I was like, oh, come on, a kid? It's like they killed off Kratos' original family for a reason, man. Nobody wants to see a kid roaming around with the freaking God of War. But it actually became such an amazing part of the story. You know, it became that part of the story where you want to see more of it. You know, it was a bad case of this kid's kind of annoying, but I like him because he's so mouthy. You know, he's so backchatty. He had all the characteristics of a teenager, even though he wasn't a teenager in the first game. And then in the second game, he is a teenager, so it's all there. You know, it's so good. He delivered the character so well. And he should be praised, actually, because it took them so long to record the audio. And this is a fun fact as well. It took them so long to record the audio for the second game. His nether regions, I'm not going to say the other word, his nether regions actually dropped and his voice dropped. So that they had to like be patient with him and be like, well, can you just kind of change the pitch of your voice a little bit? Can you talk a little bit higher? Because we need it, you know, we need it for this particular bit. We need you to talk a little bit higher right now because you're not supposed to have aged out yet. But anyway, finally ending this video, we're going to go with Best Action Adventure Game. We have 3 candidates. We have God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, and Stray. Each one of them speaks for themselves. I've only played 2 out of the 3, but I've seen many trailers and gameplay footage for Stray, and it looks absolutely amazing. And Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok need no explanation. So I really hope they get a nomination for Best Action Adventure Game. But yeah, that's it for this video then. So I want to thank you all for stopping by. I do appreciate it. Sorry for the long-windedness of this video, but I did warn you. And if you have stuck around and you are new to the channel, please make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe because it would just be your good deed of the day. And the same applies if you are a returning viewer. So stay tuned for more videos from yours truly. We're going to be doing a couple of live streams. A buddy of mine, Blazing710420, recently got a PS5, so he has his live streaming back. Speaking of which, head over to his channel if you guys haven't already. He's on the 420 community, he's on the gaming community, and he would just appreciate any support you guys can give. I'll be doing another live stream with Monty Burns Wakey as well. Head over to his channel if you guys haven't already as well. I'll leave their names in the description, do not worry. Monty's into simulation games like train sim, truck sim, things like that. So if you like that kind of stuff, head over there. So yeah, that's the end of the video then. So once again, thank you all for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I was gone for a while. I am back. I'm not going anywhere. It really does mean a lot to me that I've come back and I have my community supporting me. You know, I've got all these returning viewers and all these new viewers and all these new subscribers, and it really does mean a lot to me. So thank you all so much.